Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Jeanette Armbrust. I am the incoming chair for the NABO Institute for Entrepreneurial Development. And today we have two amazing ladies that are here to talk about diversity, suppliers, and what it looks like on the corporate side of our certification program. So Michelle, I'm going to let you introduce yourself first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
My name is Michelle Word, and just recently retired from Burns & McDonnell after 18 years as the Business Diversity Director.
Sounds great. And Michelle, you also serve on
I
the
also serve on the board of NABO.
board.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
yes.
right.
So happy to serve alongside you. And Valerie, if you would be so kind to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Valerie Collazo. I'm Lead Supplier Diversity Manager at Evergy. I've been working for Evergy for 19 years, and 18 years of that I've had the pleasure of doing supplier diversity, which I love, and worked with Michelle Ward the whole time. We are an electric utility in the Midwest. We're in Kansas and Missouri. We service about 1.7 million customers, and I'm just happy to be here today to be part of the discussion.
Sounds great. We're so glad that you're here. Now everyone out there, I think you can be I understand why I'm so excited to have this conversation with these two women. And ladies, the first question I think that I want to ask is, why is a certification program important to a corporation? And in particular, obviously, you both as, on the diversity side of things at the corporate level, why is certification important?
Well, I can take that one. Valerie, please chime in if you think I missed anything. But one thing I can say is companies want to know who they're doing business with. And one thing that a certification, we want to know that you are who you say you are. So diverse spend is routinely when a corporation, in this case, let me speak from my own experience. When Burns & Mac would work with, for instance, Evergy, they were our client. And we would have a small business subcontracting plan or diverse subcontracting plan that we would need to satisfy for Evergy. We needed to, in fact, know who we were working with. We needed to know that if it was a woman-owned business, that they were certified. Mm-hmm. And by a reputable third-party certifying agency like a NABO. Because some of that, Valerie, for instance, as the owner, they would take that information and in many cases report that to their Valerie, what was it? The
government, GSA.
GSA, yeah, and the Public Service Commission. So, the certification helps us know who we're working with, helps us know that, again, you are who you say you are. And it also, when we're doing our benchmarking to see how we did on our spend, we want to make sure that if it's, so much with a minority-owned business, so much with a woman-owned business, et cetera. But it's important to make sure that our numbers are accurate.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So from an accuracy perspective, I think sometimes some people don't understand that there are some companies that have to have, especially if you're in the government sector, right? You have to have a certain amount of a spend with diversity. And then there's some corporations that don't necessarily have to have it from a government control situation, but for their board of directors or for their mission or for their to report internally, they prefer and would like to have a certain amount of their spend go to diverse suppliers. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why to get certified is because there are companies like yours out there that want to check that box. Mm-hmm. To be able to say that they've done their due diligence by working with a company that has been approved and certified by a approved third-party agency.
Absolutely. Yes. No one wants to get called on the carpet for reporting someone for misrepresenting your figures. And the way we would misrepresent our figures, what we would have to fall back on is the fact that we have the certification here.
Yeah.
For these companies.
Gotcha.
And that kind of, one of the things why it's important for them to be certified for a woman-owned business, to be certified for a corporate member like Evergy is that that's going to help open the doors to all kinds of business, not only for an Evergy, but it's going to help open the doors like with the federal and state contracts. So if they see that you're third-party certified, that really does help open those doors.
Okay, good to know. So I think some of the confusion for our certified women business owners, even women that are thinking about getting certified, is they don't understand the process that happens on the other side. So they do their job, they get certified, and then they always ask, what do I do with it now? And I think some of it is the lack of understanding for what happens from a corporate standpoint and what that process looks like. So could, I don't know, Valerie, if you want to take this one, what
Sure.
is the process that you utilize when you're searching for a diverse supplier to come and be part of your program, or a certified vendor partner?
Okay, so the process that we go through first is we do an opportunity assessment internally with our business partners to see where we have opportunities for women to do business with us. So we look at that first because we don't want to go out and talk to woman-owned business and say, oh yeah, we're going to have an opportunity for you when we don't. So we
Mhm.
want to look to see where those opportunities are at. And then we want to see if there is a contract in place, maybe, you know, the contract's in place for 2 years, and well, then we can say, well, we do have an opportunity maybe in 2 years, but we don't want them to say, oh yeah, I talked to her, Valerie, and she said, yeah, there was an opportunity. So first we
Yeah.
look at those opportunities that are out there, and then we go and we look to see who's certified. So we'll look in our databases, we'll check our supply diversity tools, any tools that we have, our catalogs that we have, anyone who's registered with us in the past, and look to see who is certified. And if they're certified, then we try to include at least 2 diverse suppliers in all of our bids. So if we have that contract, and first we look to see, can that, you know, woman-owned business be the prime supplier? Because that's what we want first off, because, you know, primes, being a prime is better than second tier as a subcontractor. So we see, and maybe if there's, you know, if we talk to a woman-owned business and she says, you know, my company's too small to take on that whole project, sometimes we look at, you know, piece parting the project out so that they can take that project, or we say, why don't you partner with another woman-owned business so that you can do that project. So, you know, we look at that first off, and then we also set up meetings, if the pre-bid meetings, so that we can bring the suppliers in to talk about the projects that we have to see if it is something that they'd want to do. So, and then with our primes, if it does happen to be too large with our primes, then we talk with them about a subcontracting plan, and here's a list of, you know, women-owned businesses that you can include in your bid. So we would look at NABO and say, here's some women from NABO that you could include in your bid.
Yeah, great insight. So if I'm newly certified and I have identified that I could be a good vendor partner for Evergy, if I reached out to you as the diversity supply manager and I said, would my first question to you be, Valerie, I'm in the trade show and event business, and I know you have a marketing department that goes to trade shows. How do I get on the diverse supplier list so that you know that I'm there? Is that the first question that I'm asking?
Yeah, so that's one of the first questions, and we would ask you to register in our database. We have a tool that we ask all of our suppliers to register in. And then my next step would be to go to my marketing department and say, hi, I have, you know, the supplier who does trade shows. They do the banners, they do the tables, and would you be interested in talking to them? And so then I try to set up that one-on-one, you know, introduction internally for the supplier. And if they say, well, really at this time we have somebody who does that, but we'll keep their information for the next time we go out and do a bid, then that's okay too. But sometimes we'll also set up supplier spotlights so that we can spotlight the supplier to our business partners. And but since COVID has been happening in the past, we've started doing everything virtually. So, and it's really actually worked out better because we're so spread out across two, you know, our states, that instead of traveling to 10 different locations, we can actually just hop on a Teams call, and they can talk to, you know, 6 people in 6 different locations and talk about what they do. So we usually try to spotlight suppliers if our business partners are interested internally.
Yeah, love that. So Michelle, question for you. So a lot of our women are like, oh, if I get certified, it gets me to the front of the line. And I kind of utilize that. It doesn't get you to the front of the line. It opens another door for you to communicate with, because to the example that Valerie just used, I might have already been talking to their marketing department and getting nowhere. But now if I reach through the diversity supplier, it almost gives me another channel to go to marketing. So would you agree that it doesn't get you to the front of the line, but it really kind of gives you another pathway?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely gives you another pathway. But I think to your point that in many cases, you may get further by actually contacting the supplier diversity manager
Mhm.
because again, to Valerie's point, because our job is to make sure that the people in our organization that may be interested in what your services are or what your products are, that we do the introduction.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's our
Yeah.
responsibility to make them aware of you.
Yeah, you're vetting. Yeah,
We're
you're
vetting,
helping to
right?
vet.
But
Yeah.
also, and then they can it may not be this opportunity, because we always say, you really need to be patient, because there needs to be, if you're selling widgets and we're not buying widgets today, that doesn't
Mhm.
mean, because in our case, we had 10 different global practices, but we
Mhm.
may be buying widgets tomorrow. So just because we a no isn't always a no forever. It could
Yeah.
be a no today and a yes tomorrow.
Oh,
But
that's so good. Yeah.
but
So,
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, no. I mean, you just bring up another point that, so what you mentioned we talked about vetting. What do you look for when you're working with a vendor? What are some of the key qualifications or criteria that you're looking for?
Well, Valerie and I talked about this, and I see her looking up like that because she knows the first thing that we both came up with was a good safety record.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's huge in for the work that we both do in our
Mhm.
organizations, or if we both did.
Mhm.
I got to get used to that, the work that I did and the work that Valerie does. Safety is a deal breaker, would you say,
Yeah.
Valerie?
Yeah, safety is a deal breaker. You have to have a great safety record, especially for us working around electricity all the time. It's very
Mhm.
dangerous, and we want everyone to go home safe at nighttime, whether it be our internal employees or a subcontractor that we're working with. We want to make sure everyone's safe. So safety, we always look at the EMR of the customer, and if it's a 1 or below, we're good. If it's above a 1, we're going to question it, but that's not a deal breaker for us. So if we do have a company that's above a 1, we will look at them, because we know smaller companies, if they have one accident, sometimes it puts them over the
Sure.
safety threshold. So we will look to see what that, what that safety, why it's over 1. So, we've had suppliers before who've just had a car wreck and nobody got hurt, but they had a car wreck and they had to report it, and it puts them over 1 because they're so small. So we do look at that and see to make sure that we can,
So if we're not in
use it.
the energy or a situation where safety is, like for me with the trade show exhibits
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
what's the next criteria then? Does financial stability come into play, and what are some of the other things you will consider?
Yeah. Yeah. And Michelle, you want me to go ahead and take this one?
You can.
Okay. I'd say it's huge. So
Financial
financial stability
stability.
is huge. But financial instability doesn't always mean it's a deal breaker. So, for example, me and Michelle were talking about this, and we did a huge project a few years ago down at our Lysine power plant with a fabrication person who did fabrication, and the fabrication in the end was over $2.5 million worth of fabrication. Well, when you're working with a smaller company, sometimes it's hard to get bonded and insured for that amount of money. So, but what happened was they talked to their banker, and the banker said, if you can get Evergy to walk the grounds out there with us and show us the work that you're going to be doing, we'll finance you. So they called me and said, hey, will you walk the grounds with us, and we can show them the type of work we're going to be doing and why we need that much money. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So we went in, we took the banker there, we showed him what we were doing, and he got his bonding and insurance for it. And
Wow,
then,
what a success story, Valerie.
yeah,
You
yeah.
probably catapulted that company into the stratosphere with that opportunity.
Yes, and they've done very well since, and we're very proud of that, and still good supplier of ours today. And but it's those types of things sometimes. And sometimes we say, oh, you have to have this amount of bonding or insurance, but then we look at, like, for events, do we really need to have that kind of bonding and insurance? Let's take the step back, and what do we really need to have to help our suppliers succeed? So
Yeah.
because that's what it's about.
How
But,
many years in business, Michelle? Is that important too? How many years that company's been in business? I know where you have to be 2 years in business to get certified through NABO, but does that play a factor when you're selecting a vendor?
Not necessarily. I mean, that's kind of a double-edged sword. And the reason I say that is because we always say we want people that are experienced and capable and have a proven track record, but you're not going to have a proven track record until, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, chicken and the egg, right?
It's the chicken and the egg. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if I could step back for just a minute, I kind of
Sure.
like to piggyback just a little bit on what Valerie was saying about Mike Hudson. That was a case where that shows the importance of open and honest communication.
Mm, mhm.
Because if he did not feel comfortable enough to go talk to Valerie about that situation, he may not have had the banker, all of that, he may not have gotten to work.
Yeah, if he would have been afraid to say, oh, I don't have the financial resources right now, I have to go get a loan or a line of credit
Right.
through my bank.
Right.
And if he wouldn't have been taken that risk, then he would never have, well,
Exactly.
great risk comes great reward, they say.
Yeah.
So,
And she did exactly what, of course, she didn't need me to tell her this, but she did exactly what we're supposed to do.
mhm.
That's our job.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So this leads me to the next question then about being strategic, because you talk about an open line of communication. And I mentioned earlier that, a lot of women, when they get certified, think, okay, where is this list that I go to? And I print out the list of all the companies that have diversity supplier managers, to which I've said, Google is your list, because there's hundreds of thousands of companies that have diverse supply managers and diversity supply departments. So there's no list long enough. But how would you encourage a woman to be strategic in utilizing their certification to reach out to companies with diversity supply departments?
I think the first thing they need to do is know something about the company.
Mhm.
And the more they get to know about the company, the more the likelihood of, do I have services or products that seem to align with this company?
Mhm.
Because if you're selling sewing machines and you're knocking on our door, we don't buy sewing machines. That may not be a good example, but I'm just trying to make a point here.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great example. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's important. Really, on the one hand, I think that our WBEs, they have to do some work too. So they have to because Valerie and I, we both, and I think we had in Kansas City, we had a Kansas City procurement roundtable where we would spotlight companies and introduce them to each other. If we had a company that we had done great, that had done a good job for us, we would, we'd want to share that information with other supplier diversity professionals. And so, again, before COVID, we used to meet regularly. And when we would meet, some of the supplier diversity managers would get together and talk. One thing that we did not like is that the company calls you, they want to set up a meeting, they want to introduce themselves, and they come in the meeting and they say, what do you do?
Yeah, they didn't do their homework.
Right.
Yeah. So how do they even know, to your point, Michelle, that they're selling what you're buying? Right.
Right.
No,
exactly.
Yeah. That's good. So what you're telling me is blanket emailing or blanket sending out letters to everybody that's on the diversity, that's just, it's a waste of a stamp, right? Or a waste of,
I think,
of an email.
To me, one of the best case scenarios would be to reach out to X amount of supplier diversity managers after you have gone to their website, you vetted them. Just like we're vetting you, then they should vet us to see if it makes sense for me to reach out to them. And if it does, then reach out to the supplier diversity manager, introduce yourself, and request a meeting. And then once the supplier diversity manager has a chance to talk to you and kind of see, learn about your business, your geographical footprint, the areas that you support, your business size, any scheduling, just everything about your business, then that will give them an idea of who within the company, depending on what projects we have going on, who in the company that might have an interest in meeting you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can't
Great.
guarantee anything, but what we're trying to do is connect you internally to the right people.
Yeah. So Valerie, how do I set myself apart then? If I, as a vendor, if I'm reaching out to you to schedule a meeting, or I'm going online and looking for your application,
Mhm.
how do I stand out?
So some of the ways I think that you would stand out, as a supplier, if you're good, if you're registering on my website, the only thing I could say there, if you're registering and I'm not talking to you, is to make sure that you put every types of goods or services that you provide in there. So, just because you do events, maybe you also do something else. So maybe you sell PPE. And so you can put that in there also. So, put something that's going to make you stand out, and maybe something that's going to make you stand out if you do translation services is you don't just do translation for Hispanic, you also do translations for 52 other languages. So make sure that those things stand out in there if you're doing it by registration. And like if you're reaching out, like Michelle said, if they're reaching out via email, then one of the things that helps you stand out is to include your capability statement, so that we can look at that capability statement, because there might be one thing on there that stands out out of this list that we're going to go, yeah, we could use them for this. So that would help too. And one thing I have to say is make sure to start building those relationships. Don't wait till the last minute for something. So if you know that eventually you might want to do work with Evergy, reach out and just introduce yourself and say, this is who I am. I'm new to the business. This is the services that I provide. And then maybe 6 months later, reach back out again and just see if there's any opportunities, and take every
relationship.
Yeah. And take every opportunity to go out and attend the procurement one-on-ones and the matchmaking events, so that you can start building those relationships.
Yeah, I said in a previous video, yeah, Michelle, then I'll circle right back to you. But I said in a previous video, something to that effect, Valerie, is that when you reach out to the diversity supply managers, it's not about selling them. Like you're reaching out to establish a relationship and introduce yourself and just say, here's what I do. Can I send you some information? Do I need to register on your website? How do I get on your list? So that way, when you need what I'm selling, I'm hopefully one of the companies that you're going to go out and get a bid to. So thanks for acknowledging what I said in a different video on that, because I think that's so important. Michelle, you were going to circle back on something.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that it's easier to build a relationship when you really don't need the relationship. It's a lot harder to build that relationship when you need the relationship. And I guess what I mean by that is so many times we're under a schedule, right? So let's say Burns and McDonnell is awarded a project from Kansas City Power and Light. I can't believe I said that, Valerie.
That's all right.
It's awarded they used to be Kansas City Power and Light. It's awarded a project from Evergy. And so we have a need for a certain service. Well, but we're under the gun because we have to turn in our proposal. Let's just say, I'm just picking a day, okay, in a month. All right. Well, but this person, I've seen this person for the last 2 years, maybe, and they haven't spoken, they haven't said this, but now that we have the proposal, here they come. But other people have already been building a relationship, and we've already reached out to them. And so we don't really have time to get to know you when we already have 2 or 3 people that have spent the last 6 months, a year, 2 years building a relationship. It's not to say that we can't do something maybe at another time, but you've kind of missed the boat on this one because you started to build a relationship. You didn't think to build a relationship until you needed the relationship.
Such a great point.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, great point. Great point.
Yeah.
So, that segues in really nicely to our next question here. And that is, what are some mistakes that you have seen women business owners make when reaching out to do business with you? And I'm sure you both want to respond to that one. So
Oh,
not
yeah.
sure who wants to go first.
The
Well,
one
it's ju-
thing that I absolutely hate is when a WBE approaches you and the first thing that they say is that they are a woman-owned business.
Mhm.
They haven't said anything. They haven't said hello. They we don't know their name. We don't know their products and services. We don't know where they're located. And so I may be exaggerating a bit, but not really. You can't lead with the certification. We need to know more about your company. The certification is a great plus, but the certification is not going to mean anything if your business is not
Strong.
pardon me?
Strong.
Yes. I was trying to be kind. I didn't.
Love
Valerie,
that.
what do you think? We've talked about this a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's one of the things. I think also when they come to the meeting, when they say they're woman-owned business, that when they're being asked questions by our business partners, that they need to be able to answer those questions. So the woman in the meeting, when she brings maybe her salesperson with her, or she brings 2 other people with her and they're males, my business partner wants to be able to have the woman who runs the business answer those questions. They want her to speak intelligently about what she does and how she runs the business. So that's one important thing. It's kind of a red flag to them if they start asking questions in the meeting and all the men in the room are answering the question, but not the woman who owns the business.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
And
Okay.
that really does happen.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay.
And
Awesome.
one other thing
Oh,
that
go
I
ahead.
want to
Yeah,
say
yeah, for sure.
is that also, when women come to meetings, they need to dress appropriately. So, and I want to say, and the reason I'm saying this is we work in a very male-dominated corporation. Utilities are pretty much male-dominated. So when a woman comes in and they're dressed with a mini skirt or a really low-cut top, it's probably not the best way to come to a meeting when you're coming to meet with, a room full of men. So first off, you'll probably bring attention to you, but it's not going to bring attention to your business. And they're going to think you really don't know how to run that business. You're there showing off your new outfit. And so a lot of times, so just appropriately for the meeting.
Yeah, dress professionally. I think that's always a
Yes.
great reminder. Okay, I have
And
one more.
another one.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
No, I was going to say arrive on time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so you would think that these would all be no-brainers, but you guys are.
Valerie, I don't know if you remember this, but we did a do's and don'ts at Union Station one time.
Yes.
And we started by saying that some of these are no-brainers, but they happen all the time.
Yeah.
They do.
I had someone to call me. They requested the meeting. They reached out and they requested the meeting. They sent the meeting request. I accepted it. I had like 7 or 8 PMs in the room, and they weren't there. And I called them at their office, and they asked me, "Oh, Michelle, was that meeting today?"
Yeah.
That
Now,
didn't move to the top of the list, did it?
I realize that things happen, but that's kind of.
Yeah. No, that is, well, it's sad that we have to remind them of that, but hey, I think good reminders are good. So I have one more question before I want to circle back to maybe having Valerie share a success story. She's already shared one, but maybe she has one more. But one more question that came up as I was talking to a woman business leader. She said, if I am a certified minority women business, do I have extra leverage over a non-minority certified woman business by being both a woman and a minority? Or are they going in under one certification? Because we got the MWBE and the WBE.
Well, I think this kind of gets back to what are her strengths? I mean,
if they're checking 2 boxes,
Right.
does that move them to the top of the list over another one, or they're just going in under certification? So I thought that was an interesting question. I thought I would
Well, you
address it
can't
with-
count them double though.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're counted
You
as
can't-
one. That's
Right.
what I said, but
Yes.
I'm not on, I don't sit in your chair, so I wanted to.
Right. No,
I
you
wanted
can't
to
count it as
double
double.
check. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
you know, for Evergy, we would look at it the same also. You know, the only thing is, you know, in some contracts that, like if you're working for the city or state, sometimes they require that you have so much percent with minorities, so much percent with women, so much spend with the, you know, hub zone. So, you know, somebody may look at it at that point, you know, but they would only count them still in the one category. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
that still gets back to, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but it still kind of gets back to people thinking that the certification is what's getting them the work. The certification helps get the work, but it gets back to how strong, which is the stronger business for what it is that we need.
Right.
Yeah. It's not getting you the business just because you can check the box.
No.
It's getting you the opportunity.
Yeah.
To get in there.
Yes.
Sounds good. You guys have been great so far. I want to have one more question. Valerie, can you share with us another success story that you've had? I love the one that you had about the banker and getting the line of credit, but is there another story that you can share that would really motivate our women to feel empowered to go out and reach out to the diverse supply managers and the companies they feel they would do best with?
Yeah. One Michelle and I were talking about was we have Maria Antonia Perez. She's with a company called Index Lingua. She does translations for us, and she started off with the Office of One herself, and she was doing translations. And so she translated, we asked her to translate a letter for us. And so she did. And from that, you know, we started talking, she would do more letters. And then she came up with the idea of, well, if I can do this for you, maybe I should start my own translation company, and I could actually work in your call center and start a translation group that could translate whenever you get a customer that comes in. So she started off with doing our bilingual line, our Hispanic bilingual line. And then she grew. Now they have like 52 different translators that come in for any language that we get into our call center. And she's been doing that now for us for over 5 years and doing a really good job, and grown her, you know, she had to grow her company because she started taking all of our calls. So that was a huge success for us.
That's
and so
great.
yeah, that's a really good one. And then I do have one other that's for our group that we have at work, which is our Kansas City Procurement Roundtable group. Underneath the Kansas City Procurement Roundtable is a group called the Kansas City Procurement Roundtable Supplier Diversity Managers Committee. And so this was a group that came together, and we were working with Michelle Word over at Burns & McDonnell at the time. And Michelle said, hey, I would like to bring in Dr. Fred from the Tuck School of Business to do some training for suppliers here. Instead of having them go to the Tuck School of Business, let's do it here. And so we got 8 of our corporate members under the Kansas City Procurement Roundtable together, and we got our funding together, and so that we could actually have 40 diverse suppliers attend training here at Burns & McDonnell's headquarters to go through the Tuck School of Business program. And so all of those suppliers got the opportunity to go where, you know, normally it costs so much money. Normally suppliers can't afford that on their own. So, you know, with pulling together all these corporate members together, it was a great program so that we could help our suppliers in our community grow and, you know, do jobs for us here. And so we did that not only in Kansas City, but in Wichita also. So it really helped our suppliers grow, and with that training that they got from the Tuck School of Business. So that was phenomenal.
Such great stories all across the board. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Can I add on to that? You know, one thing I would say about working in that Kansas City Procurement Roundtable, and one thing that I noticed about most supplier diversity professionals, is that we share information. So if you know, because I learned a lot of good suppliers from Valerie, and I've shared some with Valerie that they've used. So in some cases, it may be that the supplier diversity person that you're talking to may not be able to, you know, there's no one in the company or no work in the company that they're aware of or that's coming down the pike for you. But that doesn't mean that they don't know others in their network that they can't pick up the phone and call and make an introduction to you.
Oh, I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that a question maybe they should ask once you've developed a relationship? and just say, hey, Valerie, if you know of any other diverse supply managers around the area that you think would benefit from my services, would you be so kind to pass those along to me? Or I feel like that might be something, just as I ask for referrals for my good customers, once I've done a good job for them, I feel like that might be a good question to ask down the road, right?
Yes, I do. And something I do all the time is I put together my list so that I remember who my suppliers are. And then if I have an opportunity coming up with, when we're working with Burns and McDonald, or if we're working with somebody else, then I'll say, hey, here's a few suppliers that could help you. And I'll even set up the meetings and make those introductions, just like Michelle's done with me before. We'll actually set up a meeting and they'll invite their engineer, or I'll invite my business unit person, and we'll make those introductions. So that way they're meeting people. And so, just because we don't have an opportunity, we always know somebody who probably does. So yeah.
Oh, you ladies have been amazing. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour about this. It makes me feel like we need to have something at our women's business conference in Austin coming up in October. So I'm going to put a good word in for that, because this, I think, is something that we need to continue to educate our certified women on. So I just want to say a huge thank you to both of you for your time. I appreciate it very, very much.
I have something I want to add if it's not too late.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I don't think really came up is local. I think some people don't realize how important local spend is to corporations. And because depending on who the client is and who the owner of the project is, they want to, in the case of Evergy utility, they want us to look local first. They want people that's paying that utility bill, if there's someone there that can do that work, to have the opportunity to bid as well. So in other words, I guess what I'm saying is that that's why the geographical footprint is so important, because if you have a project, for instance, in Los Angeles, you're not going to, people in Los Angeles are not going to want you to go to Minnesota to try to find someone to purchase retractables when they can get it in LA.
Yeah. Really good point. Yeah, really good point. So, well, ladies, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And I will look forward to, maybe we need to do a part 2 at some point on this. But thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.